Who's the head coach, general manager, and owner of the Carolina Rays? Want to know? Gotta watch this morning's Carolina People. Coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on professional sports. And we're visiting with the head coach, general manager, and owner of the Carolina Stingrays. Good morning.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
Terry, thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much for having me.
So exciting to get you into the Herald. You know, it's amazing at times to see, particularly review your V-time and to see your resume. And there's so many experiences you've had growing up in the Carolinas, having traveled all over the world, and having spent time both in professional sports as well as college and high school sports.
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate to just get a lot of opportunities to travel and to see things. And I grew up, went to high school in the mountains of North Carolina, and then went to Furman University, and played both places that I love deeply. And so I was very fortunate then to get the opportunity to move on from there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to see that experience, I think, early on in your career, I guess after college, having played directly professional sports, big-time sports, and then maintaining it throughout. It's remained big time.
Yeah, I think just as a young boy, I think I just grew up with a deep love for sports, and from the time I was 2 and 3 years old, I used to sleep with my football helmet on and eat with my football helmet on.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, seriously. And so I think it's just my whole life that's what I wanted to do. And what I really love about it is as you get older and you don't play as much anymore. Although I did actually play one game this year, but I'm not a player like I used to be. And it's the opportunity to work with young men, and I've coached head coaches in high school, I've coached in college, coached professionally, and I just love working with the age groups, whether they're high school or college or professionally, and teaching them not only about football but about life, and trying to get them to develop themselves.
Manhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever teach any girls sports?
No, I taught, because I taught in high school, for a couple of years, and for 3 years actually, and I did teach girls as well, and so therefore I had them in my classes and my PE classes, health classes, weight training classes, and fitness classes, and so I did enjoy doing that, and I felt just close to them in terms of working with them, and a lot of them were the athletes who were playing the other sports, but I didn't actually directly coach the teams myself.
Mm-hmm. There is probably a pretty big difference, that my little brother coaches a girls basketball team at a high school in the Triangle, and hearing him talk about it, of course he plays competitive basketball, on a rec league type stuff, but hearing him talk about the girls, he gets so juiced about them.
Yeah, I loved them, and to have the opportunity, everything is a different stage, sort of, working with high school athletes and students, you're really trying to develop them. They're at a very an age where you can really nurture them and help them to develop, and then you try to get them into college scholarships and you really try to get them to believe in themselves firstly, and then you also try to show them that you have confidence in them, but at the same time you want to show them that it takes a lot of work to be successful in anything in life. And so that's really what the emphasis that I think I've always tried to put across was that you can be successful in anything you choose to want to be, but you have to be willing to outwork everyone else in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I think that I'm very impressed by you, because I think all the things that you do.
No. Those are great words for young folks. Absolutely. Thanks for saying that. But were your parents supportive of you wearing your helmet to sleep in and eating in? I mean, were they understanding of this love? I mean, how did they perceive it?
Oh yeah, they were.
You ever talk to them about it?
Yeah, sometimes they have old, I guess it was 8mm or 16mm film of me sitting at the dinner table, trying to eat, and having the face mask with the fork, and having to raise my head up, and never being able to
getting it all in without making a mess. Yeah.
So they were fine, but it's and I don't think I slept the whole night, because I think after a couple of hours you'd kind of wake up and you'd be a bit hot, probably.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. That was growing up in the North Carolina mountains. Did you have brothers and sisters, Terry?
Yes, I did. I had one older sister who went on and became a lawyer, and a younger brother who is a movie screenwriter. And he does extremely well. Lives up in Valley Crucis up near Boone, and does it extremely well. Writing, selling a lot of his scripts to people like Mel Gibson and things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And your sister's practicing in the North Carolina mountains as well?
No, she's out in Colorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
good.
So she's out there.
You have other family in the Carolinas?
My father, they lived in Lexington for a number of years,
Right.
and they and he still has businesses. He has some car dealerships in Sumter. He used to own one in Loris. I guess it's the Atlantic Ford now, I believe.
Right.
He owns Sumter Chrysler Dodge in Sumter, and he owns Newberry Automart over in Newberry, South Carolina. So he still owns some businesses there, but they now have moved themselves down to Ocala, Florida, where they have some horse farm down there.
Right, he and your mom.
Yes. Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah.
You know, the excitement, of course, about being able to talk about stories like that from your youth and hearing from them what it was like, you know, now that you've got your own, I mean, are very active, you've got family here in the area.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I'm married. Actually met my wife over in Europe whenever I was playing and coaching over there. And we have 5 children that range from 14 down to 1.
You have 5 children.
Yeah, 5 children.
My Lord, Terry. Wow, I thought it was tough sleeping the helmet on. Raising 5 kids, that's amazing. From 14 to 1.
Yeah, 14 to 1. So it's a blast. I mean, I just love being with them, you know, just playing with them. And one of my big thrills of the day is getting the opportunity to take them to school in the mornings, you know, because you know, so I intentionally, you know, rather than have to ride the bus, I usually take them, and that's just you know, a real pleasure. And I think with the job that I have allows me the opportunity to do that.
Thank you for coming in this morning at 7, obviously, to be with us here. I know that's eating into your school schedule, but it's important. And fortunately, you're blessed with a bride that's able to help out. We appreciate Sarah this morning. What about that experience, of course, of actually playing sports in high school and then recognizing it in college and then recognizing it actually entering professional football? Of course, we want to focus on professional ownership and coaching, but going through all those steps, when is it you recognized that you really wanted to play and thought you had the potential to play?
I don't know. I think I was a little bit different because when I first went to high school, I was the smallest guy in the school. I was a very late developer, and I'd skipped a grade earlier, so I went from 1st to 3rd grade, so I was a year younger than everybody in my classes. So because of being a late grower, on top of being a year younger, you know, I was small for that age group. And I just kept working at it, and I just, for whatever reason, I just seemed to love it so much and have a work ethic to where I just worked at it. So in high school, I played football, basketball, baseball, and wrestled. And then I went on, and in college, I went to Furman University and played baseball and football and ran track. So, you know, it was, and, you know, and most people tend to focus maybe on one sport, but for whatever reason, I just went from one to the next. And because I evidently was willing to put in the time to try to be good at it, then I was able to do that. And so, but it was a very enjoyable time, and I can't say enough about Furman because I just, you know, the coaching staff that I had there, actually Dick Sheridan was the head coach, and he lives locally now and is in real estate locally, and he was a phenomenal head coach, you know, National Coach of the Year several times, and so I think I learned really from the best there. And my defensive back coach now is the head coach at Vanderbilt University, Bobby Johnson, and he's also a South Carolina native, and so I was really raised under a great group of coaches there.
That aspect of playing sports constantly, 12 months, almost 12 months of the year. You're training over the summertime to prepare. Did that help keep you focused on your studies? I think I saw you maintain a very high GPA while both in high school as well as in college.
Yeah,
did that help?
I think.
I don't know. I say, you know, I got to go practice from 3 to 6, and then get home, take a shower, do my homework, go to bed. Or what was that like?
I think I probably just didn't have any distractions. You know, I didn't get involved really in the social side of things. I didn't get involved, you know, seriously in terms of dating someone. A lot of my friends might have gotten a serious girlfriend in their college years and ended up, you know, as nice as that might have been for them at the time, you know, they ended up sort of dropping by the wayside in terms of the amount of time they could put into the other things. And I'd always heard that there's 3 parts of being in college. One is the education, one is the athletics, and one is socially. And you can really only do 2 of the 3 well. And so I think I just happened to be lucky that I concentrated on the 2 that I felt were the most important.
Education's such a big deal. How do you talk to your kids about education now?
Yeah, I try to emphasize it a lot, you know, but at the same time I want them to be fun for them and not to be, you know, trying to push them into overworking, because, you know, they're you know, I've got one that's just in kindergarten, one that's in the 2nd grade, one's in the 3rd grade, so they're at a very, you know, young age group there, and you don't want to have them just working all the time, so you want them to appreciate it, but at the same time you want to add a little bit of fun to it and get them to enjoy the homework that they're doing or see the concepts. And I'm a sort of a concept kind of guy, and so rather than try to just uniformly teach them, I try to, if they have a math problem or they have, some type of problem with one of their subjects, then I try to get them into the understanding of the concept and feeling as if once they understand the concept, then they can add to the knowledge rather than just memorizing, certain answers and things like that.
And kids get that. I mean, do they get concepts?
I think they do, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I'm just, you even wonder if athletes get, I mean, as a coach, and of course we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And you're breaking things down for whatever the sport is. We can talk about football in particular, but do they, I mean, getting concepts seems like a big deal. I mean, it seems so much easier just to memorize 3 times 6 is 18. I mean, as opposed to the concept of why you're doing this, why this is important to work on multiplication.
Yeah, but there's so many things that, like even on a football field, that so many things that happen that as a coach you try to control. Football is a sport that the coach has more control probably than basically any other sport. Basketball, the game's being played continuously. Baseball, the batter's up there really on his own. Football is a game where everything is in sort of set plays. Yeah, it's like a chess match, and so you do have control. But at the same time, in every play, there's decisions that are having to be made by the players, to slightly adapt whatever the play that was called. And so I think that if you teach in concepts, then then when they're faced with a problem that maybe you haven't covered or some slight change of something they didn't expect, they can then take it to the next level and move forward with it.
It must be fascinating for you to sit back at times and watch games and be thinking about how things are going down. I think I saw you'd had a career there with Sky Sports for a little while as a color analyst for some of the NFL games, I guess while you were in the UK or over in Europe, seeing stuff happening. And for you, of course, to be able to sit back and monitor every aspect of what's happening on the field, what's that like?
Yeah, I really love that. Actually, I think in some ways I enjoy the color analyst side almost more than the coaching side, because the coaching side, you're so caught up in it and you work through the whole week, and you tend to put a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself. And I think that a lot of coaches that are like that, you look at coaches like Dick Sheridan, who's now retired from the game, went from Furman, went to NC State and did very well, and then now is retired. Coaches like that have that kind of work ethic, which is how I was trained under. They tend to burn out over a period of time, and I think that. But as a color analyst, you can enjoy the game. You can still evaluate. You can analyze it. You can do everything that you did as a coach, other than the actual relationship with the players. But you do it in a more relaxed sort of way where you can enjoy it a lot more.
Do you ever think about that when you're coaching, when you're on the sidelines and the guys are out there on the thing, and you're thinking, golly, I wish I could just sit back and watch them, as opposed to, because you know both sides of it.
Yeah.
You know what it's like being a coach, but you've sat back as a color analyst for NFL games. When you're down at y'all's indoor football games, do you ever sit back and think, golly, I need to relax? Can I step out of body and watch myself coaching these guys?
I never think of that, because I'm so caught up.
So into it.
So into it. You're so focused on the game that you don't really think about anything other than trying to win that game.
How about that idea of just, putting on a helmet and getting out there and playing?
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever feel that way? I could get out and I can turn this around.
I was very fortunate, because whenever I first went to Europe, it was the league there was very much on the initial, was similar to the NFL maybe in the 1930s, 1940s, because the sport was growing over there. And I happened to be the only player head coach like in the league. And so I initially went over to be the head coach, but then once I got there, like you said, I sort of thought, okay, well, I'll kind of dress out for the first game because it's legal within the rules. I don't think I'll go in, but I'll just sort of see what happens. And then, sure enough, within like the first quarter, once the game was on, and you thought, hey, I got to do something, and you'd be on the field. Right. So I ended up playing, for a lot of years as a player head coach, winning a lot of European championships and stuff, and ended up balancing the side of of being a player, and I set a lot of records as a player, and then at the same time was we won the championships as a coach. And so then I've continued with that, and there's a lot of advantages to that, because you get in the huddle, you're in the huddle, and even if you're not going to be the person that's going to execute the play, if you're a wide receiver or something, you can get in the huddle and you can talk to the guys and say, hey, all right, this is 4th and 2, this is a big play, we got to get this play, and then you can say, you block, you can really almost sometimes make an adjustment on a play that if you'd have called it from the sideline, they wouldn't be able to do, but you've seen something that you can make an adjustment and create it. And so it actually happened this year at one time with the Carolina Rays. We had I did play in one of the games this year, and because I just it's I'm getting older, but I still feel
stay
like
in
I
good
could still
shape.
do it.
Yeah,
So I did it, and it was enjoyable. It actually
Yeah.
brought back memories of, because I think the last time I really played full time was about 1998, in addition to coaching. So it was nice to get back.
Could
into
you
it.
sense the guys were okay with it? I mean, were they?
Oh yeah, actually they relate to you better in a lot of
Really?
ways. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I'm sure that there would be that aspect. What about the guy who normally calls in the huddle, the guy who's calling the play? Who would that be? Would that be the quarterback? Okay.
But he gets the play from me from the sideline anyway. So I tell the quarterback what the play is, and the
Right.
quarterback then calls it in the huddle. So
Right.
if I go in the huddle, I still say it to the quarterback,
Yeah,
but then, or unless it's in a rush situation, and then I might call it. But it doesn't really matter, because I'm the person calling the play anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, of course, in the huddle, if you're not in there, he could be talking crap about you, and you never know. But when you're in there, he can't oh, that Terry didn't know what he's doing, I mean, he's got to be like, coach is here, or the owner's here, whatever. Yeah. I mean, so that must be weird.
It is fun, and I think that in a lot of ways it helped me a lot in Europe, because I actually was still able to. When I first went there, I was 29. I'd had a knee injury that had ended my career in the NFL, but I'd sort of recovered from the knee injury for the most part at that point, and I was able to play and do very well. So I think that the players responded to me more, because they thought, gosh, this guy not only can teach us how to do it, but he can actually do it, and I think that's important to a lot of players, because if a player doesn't believe that the coach can do what he's trying to teach them to do, then sometimes maybe a percentage of the players will kind of switch off and think, well, I'm going to do it my own way.
What about, I mean, there's tons of these players who think Lou Holtz couldn't come on the field to do any of this. The guy, he can barely, I mean, this guy can't move. I mean, it's or for older football coaches, Bear Bryant or otherwise, you just have so much respect for them, I guess, because you knew at some point either they did or they could.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not always that aspect of where the coach can actually get out there and do anything.
No, I know it's not a necessity, and I think if you look at the great coaches like the Lou Holtzes and the Bear Bryants and people like that, I mean, they've been successful for so many years.
Right.
They just have that respect.
Yeah.
And I think, but when you first go to somewhere, especially when you go to a foreign country and you're dealing with players that you've never met before, then I think it did give me an advantage that other coaches didn't have.
That must have been amazing. What was that like leaving the U.S., obviously? And I know you mentioned that relatively short stint. I mean, starting with the Patriots in '82 and having that year, and obviously a terrible, was it a knee injury?
Knee injury, yes.
And then recuperating from that, and the opportunity to go abroad must have been very exciting.
Yeah.
What year was that you left?
It was 1988, and I initially was only intending to go over for 6 months. I thought I'll see the world, and just go for 6 months and get the opportunity. And there was a few, several places I could have gone at that time, and I ended up choosing the one I chose. And the team had been in last place the year before, and so when I got there, we ended up going 14-0 and setting the all-time record.
Wow!
We didn't lose a game, and it was a tremendous experience. And then so the owners of the team then said, to try to get me to come back the following year, said, they gave me a percentage of the ownership in the club, and so I did that, and then we kept winning, and we won European championships, and I became the national team head coach and won the European championships with that. And then ultimately, I ended up becoming the majority owner. Over the years, I became the majority owner of the team at the time. So it was, but my true love is really the coaching side. That's what I mean, the coaching and playing side, and the rest of it I do because, just like I do with the Rays, I don't enjoy the rest of the side, but I do it because it's a necessity to get the team onto the field to try to win the game.
So being the head coach, the general manager, and the owner, the head coach is the one that really keeps you going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Keeps you juiced.
That's what
but
I
you
really
have to
love.
pay the bills. You gotta line up the games. You got to make sure all the players are showing up.
Yeah.
Just showing up's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we work very hard and we practice very hard.
Yeah.
And we got some great players.
Really?
Really good players. Guys, ex-NFL guys, future NFL guys. Jake Del Holmes started in our league, back when he was younger, down in Louisiana. Yeah. And so there are some tremendous players, but and they're very enjoyable to work with. Great group of guys. But like anything, it just takes a lot of work to be successful.
I wanted to ask you earlier about wrestling because we hear about, but it's a good segue into the Rays. We hear about sports like wrestling, but a lot of folks don't necessarily go out and watch the wrestling matches, and so you think about that. Now you all have, indoor football is relatively new, and it's something that a lot of folks aren't used to probably. Share with the viewers a little bit about indoor football or the Indoor Football League, how that got started and the levels they're in, and for instance, Jake Del Holmes' involvement. I mean, formally, before he...
We're the National Indoor Football League, and we had 25 teams this year, but it's growing so rapidly, there should be 33 teams next year, about 8 expansion teams that are a number coming in Florida and some from the far west. And we play all throughout the United States. We have teams in Lexington, Kentucky, say, that play at Rupp Arena there. We have Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. We have... some very, very East Center out in where the Salt Lake City, where the Utah Jazz plays, and so we have some very successful teams, and it's growing all the time. What you do is it's played in a similar, just like the ice hockey is, with the dashboard system. So you have the dashboard system, you have AstroTurf field laid inside the dashboards, and rather than playing with 11 players as you do outdoor, you play with 8 players indoor. But really, the players you're eliminating aren't like the quarterbacks and receivers, they're the linemen guys. So you've only really got 3 linemen. And so you still have just as many options, really, in terms of throwing the football and running the football. And so it's very exciting. It's very high scoring. And the difficulty is that you got the walls there. So from a player perspective, you're getting hit into the walls a lot. And so it can be more dangerous even than playing the outdoor game is.
And how many yards there? Is it reduced?
It's 50 yards, because that's like the length that you can fit inside of that area, plus the end zones.
Right.
So you got 50 yards, and you still play 4 downs to try to get 10 yards, and so everything else is basically the same, but it's just that you play in a smaller environment.
And you got field goals and other stuff? Or
yeah,
no?
so
You do.
Field goals.
Yeah.
We have a little slightly narrower goalposts, so it's more difficult to actually make it, but we still do the field goals.
Where did you come from to buy this team, Terry? I mean, how did this? I know this was obviously the Stingrays we'd heard about for a long time in Myrtle Beach, and you all are traveling now a good bit, and you found home a little bit last year in Florence. I know a lot going on, and some of the amazing athletes you've had out there. We've seen the guys scrimmaging with you and seeing you out here in Myrtle Beach as well as all over. Share with viewers a little bit about what prompted you to buy a indoor football league team.
I don't know. I think because I've always been involved in in sports, and then I was the league contacted me. I knew the Myrtle Beach team was struggling back at the start of this season. They'd had done very well the first year that they were in Myrtle Beach here, last year, and then this year they were struggling, and so the league contacted me and just said, would I be interested in coming in and buying the team and taking it over and trying to get them out of some of the financial difficulties that they were in.
Right.
So because of my love for football, and because I was really from a South Carolina boy, and I love Myrtle Beach, then I thought, okay, I'll give it a go and see what happens.
How exciting. That's a big deal. Now, y'all are traveling primarily on the East Coast, or are you making some of those trips to Kentucky and to
we go
California? I mean, now, you said some of the new teams were coming in from the West.
From the West. They'll be out as far as the state of Washington. We don't have anyone in California yet, but we go all the way out past Texas and then Salt Lake City. And so, we travel, all throughout the whole country.
How many games for the season?
You play 14 games,
okay.
So you have 7 home, 7 away,
okay.
And then you've got the playoffs then and everything after that.
Mm-hmm. Of course, there's a lot of fluidity, I guess, all the time as you're getting closer to the season and making sure. How do you get players committed? And do they find you, or you find them? We find them. A lot of them are veteran guys who've played in the indoor games for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. Our league's been going 5 years now, so it's been profitable every year of those 5 years. I think it's the only professional sports league that's been that way, and so we have players that have come from other teams that have been very successful, and so we try to find those. And in addition to that, I know players over my time that I had coached in the past in various places that I know are good guys that I'd like to have on the team, so I'll call them up and invite them to come play for us. Golly, and of course the excitement for them about getting still wearing helmets, still wearing the same outfit, or no? Are they wearing less or the same kit and caboodle? Yeah, same thing. But it's enjoyable. And we, unfortunately, Myrtle Beach, they played before I came here. They played at the convention center there, but unfortunately the convention center, with the ceiling being low, it's not conducive because the ball would kick and hit the ceiling, and it didn't have a natural dashboard system because it's not really meant to play a sports in there. And so we ended up going to Florence and playing in the Civic Center there. And Kendall Wall, who's the general manager there, was tremendous to us. And and the whole staff there was phenomenal. They were just the nicest group of people you could ever work with. And we did, and so it was very enjoyable. And so we're very appreciative that they did that. You plan on going back to Florence? I think, that's what our plan is. But
it's very exciting to see about the possibility of a new arena being built in Myrtle Beach, out at Coastal Carolina
Arena,
because that would be, I think that'll be a phenomenal thing for the city and for everyone, and something like our sport would be great because we have so many businesses in the Myrtle Beach area and so many people that follow us, and really Florence is a little bit too far away for them.
Right. Who's your biggest inspiration, Terry? What motivates you in the mornings? Maybe it's your kids. I mean,
yes, my children. I think, yeah. I just, just that, just to do things well and to try to provide for them, and that's my biggest motivation.
That's great. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Oh, thanks, Greg. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Terry Smith coming up next. We didn't get to talk about the motivational book he wrote in the late 90s, The Hero Inside of You. But we did get to talk about the excitement of football, baseball, track, and wrestling in college at Furman. Think about that, the excitement of a Tar Heel boy heading south to the Palmetto State and being in school in the upstate. We didn't get to talk about his phone number, 232-0094. If you want to learn about professional sports and about the Carolina Rays, you can give him a ring, 232-0094. But we did get to talk about some of that color analyst aspect with the Sky Sports there while he was in the UK. We also didn't get to talk about so many things that happen on the field, but we did get to talk about him shirting up and getting out there and helping call those calls, letting the quarterback sit back for a little bit. We didn't get to talk about all of his family, but you did get to hear him talk about his motivation, his own children, and his bride, and the commitment he makes to his athletes. Terry Smith, thanks for committing your time.